vocal.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But even then, I'm not sure, you know, if Gabe has what it takes to be, you know, the Flash X level of shot calling. You know, definitely has the skills as a player, though.
All right, well, we're ready for the draft, ladies and gentlemen. Misfits up against Cloud9. Misfits starting on A side.
So we'll see. Are we just going to see the Adagio Lyra ban? Are they going to shake it up a little bit? Plenty of
they're going to
options.
shake it up real good here.
I feel like banning Adagio as Misfits just to make sure that you don't have to pick between it and something else when Cloud9 has a really strong Adagio player makes sense. But they're not going to.
Arguably the strongest Adagio player.
Yeah, I mean, arguably is fair. I think it's totally fair.
I mean, I feel like you have to take it first pick here. If you don't, yeah, they're going to grab it. If you give Adagio to Cloud9, like old school is just going to run all over you with it.
They've got a great Lyra player on their team, too. I mean, they can play anything, I believe. But I do think the Adagio is like a signature hero of old school. All right, Cloud9, now they got a ban coming up. You can take away a lot of different things here. Strong picks still on the board. Ringo, Glaive, Fortress,
Lance,
Lance, not so much in America, though. That's the thing. You never know if they're going to give it that respect.
It's true. There's no respect for the Lance. It's sad.
Sad for Lance.
Yeah. It's sad for us. It's sad for everybody that wants to see the super high level Vainglory.
I would love to see NA teams pick up Lance, given what like Dark Potato's doing with it over in Europe.
Dude,
I can only imagine.
Especially because there was so much emphasis on Lance in previous seasons. Like, they put priority on Lance above anything else, even when Lance was doing awful
we should
in
just
competitive
import
play.
Dark Potato over here. Can we do that?
I mean, potatoes are subject to certain trade guidelines, you know, for
dark
health and
potatoes?
safety. Dark potatoes? I don't know.
Might
Is that like a
slide
underground
under the
market
radar.
potato?
It's like a different form of russet.
Glaive. Okay, so
Kroll
Glaive Kroll bans here. Not that I mean the Kroll ban. This is a targeted ban for sure.
Absolutely. You know, I love Joseph. Very good on the Kroll, but he's also very good on plenty of other picks. You know, Taka comes
true.
to mind, especially against an Adagio. You know, getting that mortal wounds.
Cloud9 could pick up the Taka here, but I feel like maybe it's a little bit premature. You got to worry about getting countered out by the 2 picks remaining on Misfits. What's a good neutral pick that Cloud9 could lock in here that doesn't open itself up to punishment?
Fortress.
Ringo. I mean, the Glaive's banned out. The Koshka's out of the equation. Ringo's fairly safe here.
And of course, Taka, a much harder sell into a Lyra, because you're going to have to get through that bright bulwark.
Yeah, so they still have the option of Taka as a 3rd pick, most likely, because I doubt Taka's going to get picked up here by Misfits. Misfits, I feel like, should grab something like a Black Feather, and just something that can get onto the Ringo and get past the Lyra onto the Ringo, and I feel like Black Feather does that really well.
We've actually seen quite a lot of alpha picked into Lyras, and I was just thinking, you know, there were good points made last week about how Bright Bulwark doesn't last that long, and you have so many ways of getting on people as alpha. I think they could pick it, and I think it'd be difficult for Ringo to deal with.
It's like, in the ideal world, the Lyra will shut down those gap closers. But it's just not ideal most of the time. Like, 90% of the cases, you're reacting to someone that's already moving.
That's just life, man.
That is just life, Jackson. And this is real life.
Deep here.
Yeah, I mean, our viewers need to understand a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah, you know. Jewel. Teach me a thing or two about the Jewel pickup here. With the Adagio already locked in, where's this Jewel going?
What, she's going to lane. This is going to be a Captain Adagio,
Yep.
most likely. We don't know that 100%, but most likely.
Can assume so.
And I love the Jewel into Ringo, just because Ringo's super squishy. Jewel just wants to jump straight at him. He probably reflexes the stun 9 times out of 10, but then she just starts thunder striking and attacking. So Bright Bulwark will be very important as we look to see Jewel closing the gap onto that Ringo.
All right, Misfits, they got 30 more seconds here. We're assuming this Adagio is a captain, so they still need to pick up a jungler. That could be the alpha, but with 2 melees, maybe you're opening yourself
I like
up to
Samuel.
hand. Wow.
Oh, that's a bold move.
It really is.
Do you think it's going to work?
I'm trying to think about that.
I think we both are. We're both just like trying to figure out how this is going to work. And I think the fact that we're having such a hard time kind of shows our answer.
Okay. Look. I say some things that I regret sometimes. I'm going to say that this could be a game where a CP Jewel with a weapon Taka might actually do okay.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, weapon Taka is something we haven't really seen most people committing to.
I love the weapon Taka with Adagio. I think it does really well. You can easily deliver Gift of Fire onto that target, anyone you want. He's very elusive, and a massive burst damage coming out. Ooh, little Petal coming out here. That's tough.
Petal
Pretty
to
good
deal
with
with the Taka.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a little bit good.
This is definitely like a draft that I'm struggling to understand from Misfits.
Yeah, I don't expect them to do that. I don't see.
This is one of those drafts where you look at it and you're just like each person picked their own. Like this looks like a ranked queue draft, where like each person just kind of picks their own hero, regardless of what else has been going on around them in the draft. Like a solo queue draft, each person just like, I just feel like playing this hero this game, and that's,
you don't think it's a
that's what
strong?
it feels
You don't think
like.
they have synergy or any strength in that comp?
I really don't.
It feels like there is.
The
Like,
Adagio and Taka, yeah, but I don't see the Jewel fitting in there.
I mean, it's going to be a weapon Jewel most likely. So I'm saying that it would make sense to see a CP Jewel, but I don't think they're going to do that.
I feel like what they have is a solid ability to blow up a target very quickly.
Yes.
I'm saying what they don't have is a solid way of making sure that they have a target to blow up. Right? Like, how are they actually going to get in onto someone through the Bright Bulwark, through just even an arcane passage away? Right? That's where my concern is. And also with Petal, you can spontaneous combustion if you see them coming.
It's the
try to
real
set up for
question.
that, trampoline away. Those are my concerns with the comp.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I do see that there is some synergy here, for sure. It's just, can they execute?
Yeah, I would say if this was TSM playing Misfits draft, I would predict that they would win this game. It's not, and I predict that Cloud9 will win this game.
Cloud9, 100%. I don't like this draft from Misfits very much at all, and I think it's going to get taken advantage of.
All right, well, let's hear what our casters have to say for Game 1 of this series between Misfits and Cloud9. Let's hand it on over to Dowsey and Excoundrel.
One thing that hasn't been, noted on yet is that Misfits are currently pointless in this season. So this matchup against Cloud9 is so important for them to start getting some points onto the standings and start looking to try and make their way out of this bottom part of the standings. Really interesting first item buy here at Scoundrel. Eco with the Swift Shooter on a Captain Adagio.
Yeah, that just obviously helps him give it a little bit of pressure. Obviously, when you pick up a Swift Shooter on Adagio, you can get more basic attacks down with the Gift of Fire. It can be a little bit more aggressive. And off the back of 2 engaging melee heroes, I think that's a perfectly viable thing. So I was going to make a joke about if you're a fan of British quiz shows, then you know that being pointless is actually a good thing. But I'm gonna stop right there. I think
Look at this. Wow, Misfits. The early aggression at Scoundrel. Look, it gave Vizzle straight away. Illis doing his best to get on, but they're not able to find a kill out of all of it. Cloud9 able to just walk away.
Yeah, you've got a level 1 Jewel. You don't even have the leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still, that would have been a very what's the word? Ambitious kill. If they picked it up, I would have clapped my hands and said, "Well done." I mean, I would not have expected that. And I think we should actually have a discussion about these compositions, Dowsey, because we were talking about it before game, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, Petal, counters the Taka," and yeah, Petal does counter Taka in the form of his stealth. But what Petal is really bad at is dealing with burst damage. She actually has, I think, the lowest base HP in the game out of any hero. Scaling or otherwise, she has one of the lowest base HPs. I think only Kestrel starts with lower HP than Petal, but Kestrel eventually scales up over Petal. So she deals really badly with burst, and there's lots of burst on Misfits' side. So if you can get both Jewel and Taka into the same place at the same time, blowing that Petal up, even if Petal counters Taka, she's dead before Taka even considers stealthing. So it's a really interesting way of looking at this, but it is kind of stunted by that Lyra, Dowsey.
Sure, so it's really interesting because, like, Joseph has been known for his Taka for quite some time. He's known as a Taka main. So picking this up, it's very much a case of, hey, I know what counters my own hero, but maybe ignoring the fact that there's more elements to this composition than meets the eyes.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think Humanist touched on it really nicely on the desk. When you have a Lyra, she does peel against melee heroes really well, but again, that can be difficult by using that singular Bright Bulwark effectively at the right time. In fact, actually, SK showed exactly how to exploit that by baiting out the Bright Bulwark and then engaging. So we'll have to see whether Misfits can employ a same level of coordination that SK did, but they are going in here.
Straight onto Gabe Vizzle, but Joseph hasn't revealed himself. Now going to start looking for the auto attacks onto Illis, and Illis so low. The auto attack from downtown. Gabe Vizzle able to find that long shot auto attack to find the first blood there for Cloud9, and it's always those second Lyra auto attacks that get you.
This is the issue that Misfits are going to have. If they can't find an engage and blow someone up initially, then this is exactly what we saw happen between Hammers and Immortals in the first game, where if you don't get a petal down on your first engage, she will make you pay for it by chasing you down, having her minions hound you, and especially that gets accentuated when the Frostburn comes out too, Dalsy. So I think this is a problem. I think Misfits have a point when they hit item spikes, for instance. I think especially when Illis maybe gets his aftershock or something, where they actually have the viable potential to take out Petal, but they can't really do it before then. They need to be very confident in the fact that they can go 100 to 0 on Petal when they choose to make that engage. If they can't, they die.
Like, we saw this composition, exact same composition here that Cloud9's playing from Hammers in game 1 of their series. And whenever Immortals look to engage, we'll talk about it in a sec, because Eco's actually just getting bursted down, completely removed from the map, and Misfits almost not even in a position to respond. Every time that Immortals went to engage, they either looked to engage onto the Ringo or they looked to engage on the Petal, but both are a major threat, and they just couldn't find the damage to be able to take out both.
Absolutely, and that's why you have to, if you pick a target, be fairly blinking sure that you are going to blow that target up on your particularly, chosen engage, because then you can turn your attention to the other one. But this is going to be a problem, because if they can't pick off the Petal, she will then slow them down, heal up, and obviously the almost double heal coming through from the spontaneous combustion and from the sigil means that it's going to be very difficult for this composition from Misfits to actually find the kill in the first place. Yeah, I am starting to worry here already for Misfits. Again, this is a composition that if they are trying to play from behind, if they're trying to peel Dalsy, they're going to lose. They only have that one button. It's a one-faceted composition, and that facet is go hard or go home.
And it doesn't help the fact that they're up against Cloud9, renowned for their methodical gameplay, their great macro decisions. They just choke their opponents out. They've won games with little as 5 kills, but huge gold leads, just because they're continuously getting those objectives.
And you said about the macro there, Dalsy. We just saw Cloud9 flex those macro muscles. They have, again, this is something that's been trending right now in professional Vainglory. They have great wave shove and they have great siege. 3 ranged heroes with excellent protect ahead of a melee composition that can't engage onto them as of yet. It's 3 turrets right now for Cloud9. They can step up to a turret, and even if Misfits choose to try and punish them for it, they probably end up losing that fight. So this is basically Cloud9 can walk up to whatever they want and say, mine, gold mine, mine, next turret, mine, your sentry, mine. Like they would literally do that with the map right now, and Misfits can't actually respond.
It's better if you say that in an Aussie accent and just reenact one of my favorite films. But yeah, no, you're completely correct. Cloud9 almost unstoppable just because Misfits composition. They're going to look to group up here, but that bright ball goes down and Joseph's on the flank. It just means Misfits are caught out. Eco taking the damage and they turn straight onto Illis. Stealthed up for sure right now, but the flare will reveal him. Misfits about to get the spontaneous combustion straight on into the Hellfire Brew onto Illis, trying to escape but nowhere to run. Joseph able to find the first and Illis to go down just as a second. An ace right away. It's Cloud9 all over again. They're going to find themselves a turret for this, and nothing Misfits can do.
And it's even worse that it's Jewel having to run away, because the only area that Jewel is particularly vulnerable to damage is from the back. And when you're running away from a Petal's minions who are chomping at the only area of your kit that is particularly weak, it's got to feel bad, man, for King right now and the rest of Misfits. They just dominate. And I said they could take whatever they want on the map right now, and they're completely showing that. It looks like Misfits are trying. No.
Always have to get a little bit interested to see if it will come through. Huge items just purchased up. There's the Broken Myth and the Tyrant's Monocle there for Old School, completely just skipping out a breaking point. Sora's Blade into Monocles.
Yeah, I mean, you get the attack speed buff from your Twirling Silver, right? So You know, you don't necessarily need to rely. What this does is it gives you more burst damage at the start of the fight compared to having to build up those breaking point stacks. You know, obviously, once you get to 10 breaking point stacks or so, you're already laughing, and that shouldn't be too hard for Cloud9 to achieve. But obviously, Old School saying I value the burst initially, as I think they're not going to last longer than 2 or 3 seconds if they get locked into a fight with us anyway. So this is going to help me secure those first 3 to 4 seconds of a fight more readily than if I had a breaking point, which makes a lot of sense, right? These fights are looking like they are over in a matter of seconds. If Taka reveals himself or tries to go for an assassinate, it's going to take 2 to 3 seconds to blow him up. So I kind of like this second item Tyrant's Monocle coming out from Ringo.
Not only that, in theory, if the fights were a little bit more even, and this Misfits roster was able to blow up a target, and Old School was that target, then at least he's getting that burst damage out before, you know, he has a chance to build up a breaking point. As it is, Cloud9 are just walking the floor right now, looking for the engagers. They don't find the engagers, and they start looking for those objectives. We've already seen the Crystal Sentry lose its second life, so only one more before it's completely eliminated from the map. And now they can just look to turn back and put all the pressure on this turret.
I find it odd that teams are picking these incredibly risky, snowball-heavy compositions against the likes of Cloud9, you know, against the likes of Hammers. I feel like they can go incredibly well if you get it right, but you can also go incredibly wrong. And if you know as Misfits, you're probably stacking up against a team that is predicted to win this particular matchup. Picking this snowball-heavy composition that relies on you being the ones to command the early game, you being the ones to dictate the pace of team fights, strikes me as a little bit odd. I would have much preferred to see them have a late-game win condition here, because I don't really feel like they've got one right now.
That time's eliminated is the Sentry, and now this choke point turret almost going to follow in suit, as they're just going to take this straight down. Misfits can't engage King, he's too low, and it's nothing for Misfits to do here. But watch their base be taken down. Cloud9 at 10 minutes have 5 kills. It's not many, but what they have is almost a 10,000 gold lead through their macro play. Yeah. They're going to turn head, go to the jungle shop. They might even look to secure the gold miner as well. Nothing Misfits can do to stop them unless they go for the all-in, and even then, it's the risk of losing the game straight off the bat.
This is classic Cloud9 though. This is Cloud9 who focuses those global objectives, doesn't get locked into unnecessary team fights, take the kills where they can get them, and then does something with them. And you know, we saw them, there was no risk-free wave clear coming out from Misfits. You know, the only wave clear they've got is Jules Thunderstrike, but she has to commit herself. Even if she has that damage reduction, you're reducing a hell of a lot of damage compared to just a small amount of damage. You know, you're reducing damage that realistically you shouldn't be facing at this point in time in the game, and you don't have the defenses to deal with either. So again, she's even gone the breaking point build, which for me is very odd, because that's playing against the strategy that I think that you want in these team fights. That's playing that for you are going to survive for a long period of time, or you are going to survive for a period of time where your breaking point's actually going to become relevant. I don't think she's going to survive that long. I would have much preferred to say, get some critical strike, try and blow someone up, try and burst someone. But anyway, we're going to see a fight.
They're going straight in, yeah. Gabe Vizzle looking for the engage. Eco to lay down the verse, but it gets blocked up. Illis doing work, but it's just going to start getting turned on him. No, they are going to find Old School here. What can Joseph do? Nothing. A double comes through for Eco, and Gabe Vizzle now the only member alive for Cloud9. Aggressive plays from Cloud9, and it gets turned on their head, almost playing into this composition that Misfits want to do. Illis looking for this ace, 7 seconds on Joseph. Maybe he finds it. Oh no, 1 on Old School. Gabe Vizzle able to survive just long enough for Old School to respawn, so no buffed up minions. Something though for Misfits.
C9 a little bit big for their boots, I would say, Dalsy. They did exactly what Misfits wanted them to do. They delivered all of their targets into melee range and said, we're pretty sure we can take the fight. No, you still need to play like you're a ranged composition versus a melee assassin composition. It is not right to be saying, you know, we think that we can take you on it in melee range. But then again, Illest oversteps just a little bit here.
King dives in as well, but are they going to find anything? No, it looks like King's just gone, and Eco, well, it's a 3 versus 2, but Cloud9 to take it with the ace for themselves. Incredible stuff comes out of Cloud9, and it's that over-aggressiveness, like you said. Cloud9 displayed it, but Misfits, they find one team fight win, and it's like, oh, maybe we can fight.
I think they potentially thought it's a 2 versus 3. Maybe we can win this, but you know, they don't really have a huge amount of burst right now. It's just an aftershock on the Ringo. on the Taka, and you've only just picked up some critical strike for the Jewel. Again, they won that fight because actually that fight went long enough that having a breaking point actually favored Jewel over the Ringo not having a breaking point, and you saw her build up quite a number of stacks in that last fight, as well as having an infusion too. So actually had an infusion, had built up a lot of breaking point stacks in that team fight because the Ringo burst didn't quite happen. So actually you got to the point where Jewel was doing a considerable amount of damage, and the fact that they already delivered all of the threats to their doorstep. Again, it was a fight that I think that was kind of handed to them on a silver platter more than anything, Dalsy, but they seem to have said that silver platter was their chance to win the game.
Let's see if they do it again. It's going to be the engage coming out of Cloud9, but this time it works for them. The Tornado Trigger for Old School just to do some more attack speed. Bing is finding damage, but he gets Tavukas down, and it's a triple kill for Old School. Just coming on forward, 12-3. Over 12,000 gold in the lead, and the death timers, they're at 20 seconds. Cloud9 looking to finish the game right here, right now, at the 14-minute mark. First and the second Vein Crystal turret falls. Now onto the Vein Crystal, and it's only Illuslave to do anything. Nothing to happen. Cloud9, they finished this game, Scoundrel, almost perfectly, apart from that one slip-up.
Yeah, one slip-up, but let's brush that to the side. Cloud9 had this game under control for pretty much the entirety. I mean, I don't even know where to start. You picked a very risky composition from Misfits, a composition that relied on you being the ones to dictate the pace of the game against the likes of Cloud9. I Love Joseph and Old School, they knew exactly how to play around Gabe Vizzle with that Bright Bulwark, and again, put pressure on those turrets early. They did exactly what we expected Cloud9 to do, Dalsy, which is that global objective focused gameplay. They had the superior siege. They punished Misfits when they even tried to stop that siege happening, and they managed to generate those massive gold leads just through consistent turret takes. So yeah, I just think Cloud9 played their composition incredibly well.
It's not the first time Misfits have played that composition. They did it in week 1. Pretty much against Rogue. Difference was it was a Lyra instead of the Adagio, and it was played into a fairly safe composition from Rogue as well. So, you know, maybe the pressure's on. They're going back to the risky plays. What we'll have to find out is what the analysts think that they can do to change things over. Let's throw it over to them.
Well, they definitely need to make a change. That game one, not very promising from Misfits. Cloud9 dominating basically the entire way through. There was one fight which looked a little bit shaky, but aside from that, I mean, it was Cloud9's game.
Yeah, Cloud9 had the draft, they had the game.
Yeah,